Yeah, sorry. I'm just a couple minutes late. The taxi's late. I don't know what it is. I'm outside the building. I'm just waiting for the cab. Whenever it gets here, I'll be there in 5 minutes. So yeah, go ahead. Order. I'll be there just anytime now. Some people. So what do you do when your signature is worth less than the paper it's printed on? When your word becomes so meaningless that even you don't believe the things you say? That something probably has a higher random chance of happening than it does when you say it is going to happen. Well, that's what this video is all about. Our word, our honesty, our follow through with the things we say can be a complete superpower. It can be something that will change your life for the better, and it can also be something that will make your life an absolute living hell. Your word can be one of the most powerful or destructive things in your life. When our word means something, when we say we're going to do something and then we do it, it becomes a great superpower. It becomes something that allows us to stick to plans, to follow through, to build great relationships and partnerships, and build ultimately a great life, a pretty stress-free one as well, might I add. But when your word stops meaning something, when you're just really loose with what you say, when something probably has a higher chance of randomly occurring than it does if you say it will occur, well, then you're going to run into some serious problems. And I'm not just getting into this as Coach Dan, I'm getting into this from some personal experience. There was a point in my life when my word was like, I don't know, a 14th century British man who would sign whatever, and that word was the power of the king, whatever it was. But my word meant something, where I could literally say to myself, hey, I'm going to go get up at 6 a.m., and I would get up at 6 a.m. If it was rainy, if it was snowy, I would get up and I would go for a run or go for a swim, whatever it is I committed to. And it was really powerful, and it made my life a lot easier because I could basically commit to things and then I would do them. And that was pretty wonderful. But then there was a time when I started to get looser and looser with my words, and I was being dishonest in one area of my life, and it spilled over everywhere. It was weird almost to see, but it just spilled over. And it really is that old cliche saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. When I had some dishonesty in one part of my life, my words stopped meaning anything to me, and then eventually to the people around me as well. Fortunately, I was able to learn this lesson and turn things around before too much damage was done or relationships were ruined. And I learned to rebuild my word so that what I say means something. And if you are especially an ENFP or INFP, this can be a really, really big deal. I thought of making this video after talking with an INFP friend of mine who said to me literally that her word is meaningless. She's like, when I say something, I don't even believe I'm going to do it. It just, what's the point of it? It's just words come out and there's no belief that you will actually follow through. That's a hard way to live, not only in terms of things like relationships, because if people can't rely on you, that's going to be a serious issue, but also in terms of your own discipline. As I said earlier, when you can say, hey, I'm going to do this, and then you just do it, you save yourself a ton of brain power. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that making decisions is a huge use of our mental energy, especially as ENFPs and INFPs, because we consider all the possibilities. So we're thinking about all the possible outcomes. It's a lot of work to make decisions. And when you're half-assed committed to something, essentially what you're doing is making a decision every few seconds or minutes. Like let's say you say, I think I'm going to not eat potato chips anymore. But you're not fully committed and your word doesn't mean much. It's like every 2 minutes you're like, should I eat a potato chip? No. Should I eat a potato chip? No. And each of those is a decision. So it's really draining. Whereas if your word is solid and you just say to yourself, I do not eat potato chips, you never think about eating the potato chips. I know this because I'm deathly allergic to peanuts. And do you know how many times today I've thought about eating peanuts? 0. obvious reasons. There's no decisions being made. And so I learned to apply this in my own life early. And it frees up a huge amount of mental headspace and will allow you to get a lot more done. It also, of course, makes your relationships a lot smoother. So, what do you do if right now your word doesn't mean anything? But I've hooked you on this premise here of how important it is to stand by your word and be someone who is essentially honest and trustworthy. So buckle your seatbelt and join me here. Together, we are going to make your word start meaning something. It's not going to be an easy process, but I promise you, if you go through this, you will reap rewards like you can't imagine. And guess what? The total cost of admission is $0 and a little bit of effort. So step one to making your word count is to give yourself a bit of a reset. And by a bit, I mean a big one. Where you take a moment, you could do it now during this video, but it might actually be more meaningful if you schedule it in later today. Maybe you do a little ceremony where you burn all your text messages that were lies and say, from this moment on, my word is going to mean something. So you have to have a clean break and stop living in the past. Next, you have to start paying attention to how you use your words. Something I've been working on the last month and a bit and been talking to my team about is the word try. And essentially, we started with, well, if you're not sure you're going to follow through on something, you should use the word try, because that way you're not misleading people and saying this will be done. But then we thought, well, why even just say you're going to try something? That's kind of not a great way to set up your life, right? So now it's do or do not. It's the Yoda thing, right? So do or do not, there is no try. And it's a process. I'm still working on it. It's thinking about how I use my words and saying, okay, will I do this or not? And if I'm not sure if I'll do it, just don't verbally commit to it to anyone and just keep it in my head until I'm sure if I'm going to do it. So once you started to notice maybe some of your patterns, then what you want to start doing is making small commitments that you know you can follow through on to yourself and yourself only. So start to change how you interact with yourself. You can literally, this sounds stupid, but it can be, I'm going to move this shoe. I'll tell you about these shoes another day, by the way. I said I would move the shoe, and I have moved the shoe. I have now fulfilled a commitment to myself. I have a 100% ratio in the last 2 minutes of things I say I will do actually happening. So start with small commitments that you know you're capable of doing. Don't overcommit and get yourself into a problem where you can't keep up with the commitments and then your word stops meaning something, right? And it's important with these commitments, with all commitments, that you make commitments within your realm of control. If you saw my video on extreme accountability and the process I use to get things done, like write a book or completely change my diet, you know that you should only commit to things that you have control over the outcome over. Otherwise, you're giving up that power. And so if you say, we're going to go suntanning outdoors today, well, you don't control the weather. So that's maybe not something that you can fully commit to it happening. So basically, you start committing to yourself on smaller things, then you can expand those, then you can start committing to other people. The key is committing to things that you know you can do. And then suddenly you're saying, hey, the things I say I will do, I actually do. Now you might ask, what about other larger things though, right? What about things that I'm really not sure about? Well, that's where the other part of this comes in, is just stop promising things. Like, no one requires you to promise you're going to do all these different things. If you're not sure if you're going to do something, just keep your mouth shut and don't tell anyone about it, right? We often, especially ENFPs, we go out of our way to overly commit. I see this all the time in my business where people will go out of their way to commit to something to me that they didn't need to commit to and then not do it. I'm like, why did you make that commitment in the first place? We could have just not had that conversation, but now you've made a commitment, broken that commitment, and now that's obviously a bit of a problem. So ultimately, you're working on adjusting your actions and your words. You're lowering the level you commit to. So maybe rather than saying, I'm going to go for a 5-kilometer run, you say, I'm going to go for a 1-kilometer walk. And if you run 5 kilometers, which you probably will once you get outside and get going, then great, you've exceeded your expectations. One thing you have to realize with most of my advice, it's based on a principle of mine, or maybe a theory of mine is a better way to say it, that our unconscious mind is always observing our actions and it's adjusting our self-identity based on how we act. This was the basis for my first few books on self-confidence. So the way you act is being observed by your unconscious, which is then adjusting your self-image, which then adjusts how you act. So for example, if you're someone who never follows through on things, then your unconscious is looking at you being like, I'm a dishonest person. I'm not a reliable person. And it's changing your self-image. Then guess what? Then you think, I want to start my own business. But you find yourself being reluctant and scared to take that leap. You don't believe in yourself. Guess why one of the reasons is you don't believe in yourself? Because your unconscious has been paying attention for the last couple of years and is like, hey, remember all those things you said you were going to do and didn't do? Yeah, I don't think we should jump into a business and quit our job just now because 9 times out of 10, you don't do that thing you were going to do. This happens in many areas of our life. So it's really important to pay attention to how you act and basically the example you give yourself of the kind of person you are. Sounds a little crazy, but it isn't. It's backed up by a lot of research, and it is one of the best things you can do to change your life. Act like the person you want to be. Your unconscious will observe that. It will then adjust your image of yourself, which will change your behavior and create a really nice self-fulfilling prophecy of all kinds of great things. I want to know in the comments below what your experience has been keeping your word and following through on things, and what you might do differently, if anything at all, moving forward. If you are new to the channel, my name is Dan, this is Dreams Around the World, and I publish new videos each and every week, helping you become the best version of yourself, all while creating the most awesome life possible for you and those you love. So do hit that subscribe button and the bell, and I will see you in the next one soon. Yeah, I'm definitely running late. I got up this morning and I realized there was a new season of Money Heist on Netflix. So instead of working or getting ready to meet you for dinner, I basically watched that all day. Yeah, no, I'm not even ready at all. You should order your meal. But I can commit to this. I will be there by dessert as long as you order at least 3 courses. No, that's my commitment. My word means something. All right. Bye, Grandma. One last thing. If you're an ENFP who loves being told how absolutely awesome you are and why you are the best in the world, well, head over to dreamsaroundtheworld.com/ENFP training, and you can get my free training series for ENFPs, where the first email is a pep talk. You'll see the subject line in your inbox, ENFPs are awesome. After you read it, reply to the email, email me back, and let me know what one of your favorite things to do is. See you in your inbox.